Hey YouTube, it's Magician34 with this week's edition of The Edge. And this week's Edge card is probably something you've already become familiar with, but if you haven't already, it's time you did. It's Compulsory Evacuation Device. It's a really straightforward trap that just says return one monster on the field to its owner's hand. Simple enough. That's all it does. But while you might think that that's a -1, it's actually quite a good thing. I mean, let's think about it. It gets rid of extra deck threats, just deletes them because they go back where they came from and your opponent won't get it into their hand to replay or anything. So things like Utopia, or annoying fusions like Great Tornado, or how about destruction-proof monsters like Stardust Dragon that are hard to kill with things like Bottomless Trap Hole. Or Wind-Up Zenmain, who you really don't want to destroy but will probably be seeing a lot of. Or ever-present nuisance of the agent deck, Gachi Gachi Gentetsu, who's so important for their early plays. Or even we can go so far as to point out how Armory Arm, who's seeing a significant increase in play from back in the day, how this guy really doesn't like Compulsory Evacuation Device just because they sync for him, almost surely don't leave him on the field, equip him to something, and then you bounce the monster and they lose that monster, or at least have it go back to their hand, and Armory Arm goes away. In fact, virtually anything that comes out of the extra deck pretty much doesn't like Compulse, because Compulse just cost-free gets rid of it. And that's probably reason enough to consider the card by itself, but it can do a lot more than that. For example, early game Thunder Kings can really lock you down and be problematic, especially if you have, say, 2 copies of Pot of Duality in your hand or something like that. But you don't have to worry, you can get him out of your hair for a turn. And with a free turn of possibly Synchro Summoning or Xyz Summoning, you can probably answer him when he's just frailly resummoned on the next turn, essentially in a lot of ways stealing a turn from your opponent. Or how about nuisances like Kaiku, who can block, say, your Blackluster Soldier play, things like that. Another good one. Or how about Spores that have come back there one time per game to be a conveniently leveled tuner. Just as soon as this guy and or his other half of a would-be Synchro comes out onto the field, just bounce whichever one. You could even bounce the Spore. And then next time they'll have to do what? Summon it? Well, you've already had a chance to kill the other half of the Synchro, so summoning it doesn't mean much. So you kind of killed their play. Or how about Sangans that come off of Tour Guides? It looks a lot less impressive when that Sangan goes back to the hand and they have to re-summon it. It's almost like stealing 2 turns from them in terms of tempo. Or how about Card Trooper? Yeah, they milled the 3, but there's no reason to give them the extra card. And that can slow them down too. It's kind of frail for them, once again, to have spent a whole other turn just normal summoning him, even though they get the mill, and then pretty much having to say go. And you still get the chance later then to run him over and deal damage. Dandelion really doesn't like this card and gets slowed down a lot. Runs into the same problem as those guys. Or how about a Cyber Dragon? Once they go Cyber Dragon, summon their other monster, compulse the Cyber Dragon, and they can't summon it again and it sits dead in their hand. In fact, you could even go so far as to say bounce that Sabersaurus that they just searched with their Rescue Rabbit, potentially cutting off a play like certain Evilzar monsters. So, a whole other stack of arguments right there, but I can even go further than that because it's any monster, not just your opponent's monsters. And sometimes compulsing your own monster is good. I mean, consider, you can even do weird things like compulse your own Reborn Tengu, and get another Reborn Tengu. Not necessarily ideal, but card advantage-wise, it's a +1. Or actually, it's an even trade, my bad. But think about this. If your opponent's about to mind control your monster, they could do some serious damage to you. This card's pretty much a guarantee of shenanigans. Compulse your monster, and you deny them a Synchro or an Xyz material, or say an effect monster like Blackluster Soldier or Hyperion that you can just replay. It can also be a good way to save key monsters from getting removed from play to Bottomless Trap Hole. Or say Torrential getting rid of something you'd really like to keep in play on the next turn, especially good when you're both entering top deck mode kind of area. And you can even use it in similar situations to maybe even reuse come into play effects like those of Agent Earth and then Stratos. So those are quite a few arguments for you to at least try Compulsory Evacuation Device if you haven't already. Some people really are putting this to good use, and I haven't seen it be dead yet. So until next time, rate, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more cool gaming content.